Hello and welcome to the Wellness Connection podcast. I'm your host, Fiona Kane. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about relationships. Now, I'm not a relationship expert by any means, and so this is really just a general things I've learned along the way for myself and in general just working with my clients. So it's just a sort of some tips and some ideas and things that I have learned that help with romantic relationships, with basically making a marriage work. But also anything to do with relationships obviously expands out to other relationships because just learning how to have a healthy relationship, obviously that works in lots of different ways. So one of the things I've learned, one of the most important things I've learned is that we can't change what other people do. We can't force people to be different. We can't force people to do different things. We can't force or change another person. What we can do is we can make changes ourselves. So my starting point is always, well, what can you do that's different within you? Because sometimes I find that, I was guilty of this myself, kind of saying, oh, why doesn't he do this? Or why doesn't he do that? Or I wish he would do this other thing. And then I turned it around and thought, well, what would elicit that behavior in him? And it's not going to be nagging or saying you should do this or you should do that. I said, well, what behavior in me, what's something I could do different that would change the way that he responds? And I noticed that that did make quite a difference. So just taking ownership for how I was being. Now, what that looks like in your relationship, it might be lots of different things. So it might mean making an effort to it's like depends on that person's love language, right? So it might mean making the effort to do something that helps them out, or organising a romantic dinner or a romantic time, or cooking a dinner, their favourite dinner, or just being kinder, even if you're feeling angry and even if you're feeling hurt, just trying to approach the situation and trying to approach the person with love. Because often when we're feeling hurt and resentful, what we do is we punish our partner. So we either punish them with we're kind of mean, or we get cold and distant, or all the different kinds of ways that we respond when we're feeling hurt and we're feeling angry or we're feeling like we're missing out. But of course, when we start behaving that way, we get the opposite of what we're looking for, because usually they kind of start to withdraw, or they get angry, or they get frustrated. And then you've got two people either withdrawn from each other or frustrated with each other or whatever. And, obviously it kind of just keeps snowballing and gets worse and worse. So really a big part of this in my experience is owning your own behavior, owning your own feelings, and learning how to process your own feelings and change your own behaviors. Now, there will be situations where, look, in some situations, you're with a narcissistic partner who, if you're in a situation where you can't do anything right, no matter what you do, it's always wrong, there's never going to be enough. It's a whole different situation. Go and get help for that, because no matter how much you're changing yourself, that's not going to help anything. But I'm just talking for, the average couple where, we're just miscommunicating, or things are a bit flat, things not going so well. These strategies definitely work in those situations. So it's really, and the other thing too is that if you work on yourself, so whether it be working on how well you manage your emotions, and rather than acting out straight away, that a bit calmer, if you work on things like your health and your mental health and all of those things, that will bode well for you anyway. It will bode well for you in life. It will bode well for you in your career, or all aspects of your life. And if this relationship doesn't work out, it will also bode well for you in new relationships. So there's kind of you can't lose by working on yourself. It's still a benefit no matter what. But the other thing too is just going back to what I was just talking about there before, you're owning your behaviors, your responses and things. This is a really big one for me, because when I was younger, I was a bit of a hothead. Look, I still do. I get angry sometimes. We all know the different emotions that we experience and how well we manage them, that sort of stuff. It's human. Of course, I get angry sometimes. But when I was younger, I really didn't cope with it very well, or I didn't know how to manage my emotions, or or comfort myself or regulate my emotions. And what I used to do when I was much younger, I've been with my husband for 35 years now. What I used to do is I used to kind of what I would call throw landmines into the room. And a landmine would be, a cutting remark, a snarky remark, a joke, but the joke wasn't a funny joke. The joke was it was cruel, right? So essentially, what I did is I used my wit or my words or my intellect or whatever. I used those things to basically to harm my partner, to harm my husband. And I just throw these landmines in, and I would feel better because, well, I got that off my system, right? But it didn't help anything because what I literally had done is thrown, an emotional landmine into the room. And when you do that, it harms everybody in the room, right? So it harms you, harms your partner, and if you've got children or other people, obviously it just harms everyone. And it took me a while to realize that that's what I was doing, and that it wasn't, there was no win-win, there was no win at all. And of course, you'd sort of feel oh, look, good, I got that off my system. But then straight away, you'd feel like, yeah, and then what? For did I win anything? And the answer was no, I didn't win anything. I just damaged my relationship. And you keep doing that for long enough, and then you wonder why you don't have a healthy relationship. There's a clue. So, and it's funny because I didn't see that I was doing it. One day, my husband pointed it out to me. I won't go into details because I don't want to. Uh, he's not on this podcast. He doesn't want to. But one day he just pretty much held up a mirror to me and said, "Look, I'm not. Don't talk to me like that. That's not okay. Whatever." And it's the first time I actually saw what I was doing. And I was quite shocked that I saw what I was doing. I saw this behavior because I didn't think I was that kind of person. I thought I was a kind, nice, lovely person. All these things, all these ideas I had about who I was. And he basically held up a mirror. And what that allowed me to do, though, is because I could have just been angry at him for holding up the mirror and said, no, I'm fine. It's just all you. But I must have just had that aha moment, had that insight. And what I did is I started to notice. It's almost like I just started to observe. I started to observe my behavior. And I started to notice that I used to sort of use basically my words as weapons. And when I started to notice that, at first, I was just observing it, but then over time, when you start to observe it, you start to be able to stop it, because what happens is you see yourself formulating the words and getting ready to, throw this landmine, and then I was able to get to a point where where I'd say to myself, "Is that worth it? Is it worth throwing that? Do you really think it's a good idea?" And so I was able to kind of start to change that behavior. But so that was actually really helpful that I was able to listen at that time and reflect and observe and see what I was doing, and at a certain point pull back and start to recognize that that's what I was doing. And so now I'm much more likely to notice it, and I've probably diffused at least 90%, if not more, of that kind of behavior. Probably more, actually. I'm doing pretty well, but I've diffused so much of it because I was willing to look at it, I was willing to take ownership of it, and I was willing to change it, right? And that has made a huge difference because we need to feel safe in relationships. And so if you're not feeling safe or your partner's not feeling safe, have a think about what that might be. And like I said, we can only change our bit. We can certainly communicate to our partner if they're willing to listen, like my husband communicated to me. So we can communicate and say, no, I'm not feeling safe because, like, whatever the thing is. However, like I said, a lot of what you can do is something that you can do yourself. That's about making changes for you, learning how to regulate your own emotions, and learning how to. So what happens is, because we get, like I was talking about before, we're feeling so hurt and hard done by, and all the rest of it. We go to our respective corners, and we don't want to. No one wants to be the first one to give in or to give up or whatever it is. But the truth is that it doesn't get better until someone is actually willing to um, basically put the hand out, So if you really love that person, or if you did once really love that person, and you feel like you really want this to work, you want to make this happen, then you really need to find that spot in your heart of that love that you have for that person, or at least that affection, or even if you have respect, or level of whatever it is that you feel for that person. We need to be willing to actually kind of come from that place and just tap into that and go, no, actually, I really do love this person right now. I'm feeling very hurt and angry, but I really do love this person. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to approach the situation with love. I'm going to approach the person with love, because when you approach a person with love, you're more likely to have that person respond back in kind, as opposed to if you approach them with anger and bitterness, and you should do this, and obviously if you approach someone in that way, you're not going to get the response you like, no matter how justified you are. You could be the most justified, and you could be right and all the rest of it, but good luck with that, right? And it's that old adage, I think, is it Dr. Phil? Yeah, Dr. Phil used to say this all the time. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? And that's actually a really, really good question to ask yourself, because this is a big thing in relationships. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? And so many people choose being right because they want to be right about whatever it is. And even now, people are breaking up over politics and things like that. Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Now, I'm not saying that means you never ever. I'm not saying that means you can't have any boundaries, or you can't have any standards, and you can't demand a certain type of relationship or behavior. Of course, this isn't me saying let someone walk all over you and treat you like crap, and it's only ever your fault, and you should just put up with it, and you should put up with anything. I'm not saying that at all right? So obviously within relationships, we still have healthy boundaries of whatever that looks like for you, and we have we get treated in a way that we expect to be treated, right? So, respect and all of those things. So obviously that kind of, for me, that's a given that's there. So I'm not sort of saying, oh, don't have any expectations. Of course you have expectations. So have those things there. But just remember, do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Some people, they like me in my cutting remarks or whatever, they want to win in the moment, and the win in the moment might feel good, but that win in the moment, is it really a win? And so I would ask you, if you feel like being right is really important to you, when you really stop and reflect on it, is that really a win? And maybe sometimes in situations it is, but I just, reassess that for yourself. Is that really a win? The fact that I'm right about this, and I'm taking the moral high ground, and I'm proving that I'm smart and they're stupid, or whatever the situation is that working for you? Is that helping the relationship? Is that just another version of a landmine? Or, you know, is that just healthy negotiation about a relationship? I don't know, but it's worth asking yourself that question, because do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Well, I want to be happy most of the time, but I do have a need to be right as well. I'm a bit of a smarty pants. It's thinks that I know it all sometimes, and so I balance that, because I just know that's my personality. And sometimes I just have to ask, so Fiona, do you really want to be right about this? Is it that important to be right? Because sometimes it's just not that important. There are situations where being right and getting your own way is really important. And there are situations where it just doesn't matter. And it's knowing the difference. It's knowing that, look, that really doesn't matter. And that's the other thing in relationships as well. Like, what we do sometimes is we go on about every little thing, about, the dishwasher and the this and the that and whatever. And look, again, I'm not saying this from some moral high ground where I've never been this person. Honestly, I'm saying it because I am this person sometimes. So it's not a judgment, but we go on about so many of the little things that really don't matter, and really save kind of these big conversations for the things that really do matter, for the big things. Because if you just barb at your partner over and over again, oh, you didn't do this in a dishwasher, and if that's all they hear from you, that obviously that doesn't bode well for a relationship, because they're just going to feel attacked and judged, and they're going to feel like it's never enough and never good enough. And I know I'm absolutely guilty of that at times. So, like I said, not no judgment, but ultimately, if you want a healthy relationship, less of that would be really, really useful. So the other thing that I just wanted to bring up as well, look, obviously relationships, there's a lot in it and there's a lot you could talk about. And I'm not going to cover it all here today. I'm just giving you some of the tips that have worked for me. And ultimately, it's about learning how to regulate your own emotions, learning how to know when you're throwing, you know, basically landmines into a situation. Are you helping it? Are you all about being right and not being happy? Is that working for you? Are you coming at it with love? You know, those sorts of things. Then there's one last thing I would mention to you is, it's not healthy to have big elephants in the room that we don't talk about. Sometimes you've actually got to do the hard stuff and talk about things that are hard. And we think that avoiding them, you know, is helpful, but avoiding stuff is usually not helpful. It just gets bigger and harder and all the rest of it. And one of those is actually finances. Now, finances, I think, is one of the biggest issues in relationships where people have the biggest stress and breakups and all of the rest of it. I would encourage you, no matter how hard it is, and I know that my hubby and I, we've had some tough financial times, is you've got to talk about it and you've got to get help. And sometimes that means you've got to get a financial advisor. Maybe you need to get a counselor as well, whatever you need. But we've certainly worked with financial advisors over our time and had advice and had help and just been really honest, because no matter how hard it is to be honest about finances and to come clean and to try and it's really hard. It's a real point of vulnerability, and it's sometimes it's hard if there's an imbalance, if one person's earning more than the other and one person's spending too much or whatever. All those things are really, really tricky, and we do try and avoid them because it's hard. But avoiding them only makes it worse, and you're more likely to end up with your relationship falling apart. So my advice to you is come clean about those things, because if you work with someone like a financial advisor or something like that, you can work together. If you're working as a team to resolve a problem, that works a whole lot better than if you're kind of like, not elephant in the room, we're not going to talk about it, we're not going to say anything, we're going to pretend it's not happening. That things just get worse when we do that. So that's in general in life, right? Things don't get better if we avoid them, if we pretend they're not there. Generally speaking, a lot of problems get worse when we don't address them. So my encouragement is, if there's big elephants in the room, that you've got to talk about them. You've got to have this communication, and one of those things is finances. It's a really, really big one that we avoid talking about, and we do that to our detriment. So anyway, it's a bit of a shorter episode today, but I just wanted to give you just a few tips, a few things that I have learned about healthy relationships and things that we can do to maintain healthy relationships. Ultimately, we need to feel safe. We need to feel heard. But we also need to be aware of, well, what are we doing to help our partner feel safe and heard? Sometimes it's all about the list of the things we want, but we don't think about, well, and even just like if you're not with a partner yet and you're looking for someone, again, it's not just like, because a lot of women these days have this big list of what they want their partner to be, 6 foot tall, six pack, six figures, all the rest of it. He must do this and he must have this and he must have that. Great. But how about, like, what do you offer? What do you bring to the party, right? So I think we have to remember, we've got to think about what we bring to a relationship. Are we looking after ourselves? Are we eating well? Are we managing our emotions? Are we looking after our mental health? Are we looking after our financial health? Are we sensible with money? All the things. But what are we doing to make us a better person all around? Like, what are you doing to make yourself a better person all around, whether it be spiritual, whatever it is? But are you working on you? Are you making sure that you're doing well? And if we are, then that's attracting that other person. But sometimes we've got these big long lists, and if you're sitting on the lounge eating your Doritos and your trackies, and you've got this big long list for the other person, maybe you think about, well, what's in it for them as well, because a relationship is a relationship. It's going to be something in it for both people. So yeah, anyway, just what we can do is we can control our own behavior, and what we can do is we can reflect on whether or not we are behaving in a way that is helping or hindering the situation. So that's what I would encourage you to think about for yourself. So please like, subscribe, share, rate, and review the podcast. I'd really appreciate that. Share this episode with a friend if you think that they would benefit from it. And I'm always happy for people to comment or reply, or whichever way, whether you're getting it on YouTube or whether you're getting it through your audio. But I'm happy to hear what you think as well, what your thoughts are. So, what I like to do here is have, real conversations about things that matter, and relationships matter. So I just thought I'd give you a little bit of the wisdom that I have, a little bit of what I've learned, and hopefully that helps you. Hope you have a great week, and I'll see you all again next week. Thank you. Bye.